Okay, let's dive into the stack of sources you've shared. Today we're unpacking a collection of poems by Lewis Carroll. Probably not the ones you immediately think of, though.
Hmm. No, this is Phantasmagoria and other poems. A bit more obscure, maybe?
Definitely. And our main source here is the Project Gutenberg ebook, which is fantastic for getting hold of these older texts.
Right? And it notes this version is based on the 1911 Macmillan edition, with those A.B. Frost illustrations. The poems themselves, though, first published way back, 1869.
Yeah, quite a while ago. And it's public domain in the US, so, easy access. There's this inscription at the beginning, "To a dear child." It sets a certain mood, doesn't it? Memory, summer.
He really does. That sort of wistful carol tone. But then you get into the poems themselves, and it's just, well, it's wonderfully weird. Pure Carroll wit and absurdity.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to really get into this collection. What are the key ideas, the characters, the sort of surprising bits Carol hid in here?
What can we pull out that goes beyond, say, Alice?
Right. And we have to start with the title poem, Phantasmagoria. It just drops you right in. Narrator's in his study, late winter night.
Cold, tired, muddy even. Ready for supper and a cigar, he says. Very specific vibe.
Totally. And then something appears. White, wavy.
Uh-huh. And his first thought, oh, it's just the carpet broom someone left out. Which is, logical enough.
As you do. But then the thing shivers.
And sneezes.
Sneezes. Okay, not a broom then. Definitely not upholstery. You've got a ghost.
A little ghost, apparently, who's shivering and seems quite shy at first, hiding behind a chair.
Which leads straight into this brilliant, very Carrollian back and forth. The ghost is all, well, ghosts have just as much right to fear light as humans fear dark.
And the narrator's like, hang on, that's not fair. You ghosts get to choose who you haunt, but we don't get a say.
Yeah, you can't just refuse the interview, as he puts it. Stuck with them.
And the explanation for why this ghost is there is amazing. He says houses are actually classified.
Classified? How?
By the number of ghosts they can accommodate. This narrator's house, it's a one-ghost house.
Right.
And the previous tenant, a specter, left. So this ghost, who's a phantom lower down the pecking order, was next in line.
There's a hierarchy.
Oh, yeah. Specter, then phantom, goblin, elf, sprite, and then ghoul at the bottom, apparently.
Wow. Spectral bureaucracy, and why did the specter leave?
2 reasons. The place was low, and the narrator kept bad wine.
Ouch. A spectral bad review.
Pretty damning. The narrator's understandably annoyed, Why send a brat like you to haunt a man of 42?
Yeah. But the ghost insists he's got experience, just maybe not in strict domestic haunting.
Right. And he's flustered, forgotten the 5 good rules of etiquette for ghosts. So naturally, he offers to recite them.
Of course he does. But wait, before that, there's my favorite bit. The narrator, even though the ghost looks a bit, well, spectral.
He offers him food.
Yes, something to eat.
And the ghost says yes, asks for duck with gravy, and later asks for bitter beer.
It just throws all your typical ghost expectations out the window, doesn't it? Hierarchy, rules, and appetites.
It's fantastic. Completely absurd.
All right, so let's hear these maxims of behavior. Canto 2, what's rule 1?
Rule 1. Haunting someone in bed. Key detail. Don't touch the head curtains. Go for the middle. Wave them about.
Okay.
And crucially, wait for the victim to speak first. Politeness matters.
Even in haunting. And if they ask how you got there?
The official answer is, on the bad's back, my little dear. Which, interestingly, is also the title of another Carroll poem. Nice little link there.
Ah, clever. What if waving curtains doesn't work?
Plan B, shake the door. If that fails and they just snore, give up. It's not worth it.
Sensible. What about daytime haunting?
Simpler. Just a hollow groan. But haunting friends is way more complex. Involves candle ends or butter for making slides, apparently, and swinging about. So it's like hard work.
It really does. Okay, rule 2. Ceremonial calls.
Right. For those, you burn a blue or crimson light. Then you scratch the door or walls.
Ah, but the narrator draws the line there. He says, no bonfires on my floor, and definitely no scratching.
See, the host isn't totally powerless. Rule 3 is about respecting the victim's interests. Don't contradict them. Treat them gravely.
The narrator quite liked that one.
But there's a catch. The ghost adds, if the host is rude, calls you thing, or comes at you with a hatchet.
A hatchet. Okay.
Then the Ghost King says you can ditch the politeness, and the host is sure to catch it. So, be nice to your ghosts.
Duly noted. Rule 4.
No trespassing. Don't haunt where other ghosts are already quartered. The punishment, being slaughtered.
Which sounds bad, but...
But it just means being cut up small. and they soon unite anew. It doesn't hurt much more, the ghost says, than being cut up by a bad review in a magazine.
Oh, that's brilliant. Equating literary criticism with spectral dismemberment. Only Carroll.
Isn't it just? And finally, Rule 5, addressing the king.
How do you talk to spectral royalty?
Basic address is just sir. But if you want to be really polite, it's my goblin king, or your royal whiteness.
Royal whiteness. Love it. Okay, so he finishes the rules, asks for that bitter beer,
Gets it.
and you're left thinking, this isn't just a ghost. This is a window into a whole society, a slightly ridiculous, rule-obsessed society living alongside us.
Absolutely. And Carroll applies this very mundane, almost civil service structure to it all. In Canto Thier, they even discuss ghost travel. Phantoms like him, they can't just fly everywhere like the kings.
Why not?
Wings are expensive. Apparently you buy them from elves. Specters, the rich ones, they can afford wings. Phantoms are stuck down below.
Spectral classism. Amazing. And how do they know about the narrator's bad wine?
Ah, that was Inspector Kobold.
Inspector Kobold.
Yeah, a specter. Described very specifically. Yellow gown, crimson vest, nightcap. His backstory involves trying the ghost business on the Brocken Mountain, catching a chill, coming to England.
And developing a thirst for port wine.
Exactly. Which led him to haunt inns, earning him the nickname, the Inspector.
Oh, groan. An agonizing witticism, as the narrator calls it.
It is pretty bad. But then the ghost just lets loose with this incredibly detailed critique of the narrator's entire house and lifestyle.
Oh yeah, nothing's safe. The cook's wasteful, the food's bland, the cruets are wrong, the waiter's clumsy, the lamp's bad, the peas are old, the cheese is cold.
The bread's not right, the drink is sour and looks like ink. It's just relentless domestic complaining from a ghost.
He even slams the room size, neither snug nor spacious.
Right, and when the narrator tries to defend it, saying it was designed according to Ruskin's principles.
The ghost just dismisses Ruskin, calls the room a poor job.
It's such a clever way for Carroll to maybe slip in some satirical jabs at, contemporary taste, home life, maybe even art critics like Ruskin, all through this absurd ghost character.
It really connects to the critiques in his other poems too, doesn't it?
Definitely. Anyway, things get a bit heated after all this criticism. They argue about cigars. The ghost gets maybe a bit too familiar.
Yeah, throws a bottle.
Throws a bottle, yeah. Knocks the narrator out for a bit.
Who wakes up reciting math problems?
Randomly. And the ghost is then ready for Canto 4. His nourriture, his backstory.
Right, he was a little ghost eating buttered toast.
On poultices, which the narrator recognizes from that nursery rhyme, 3 Little Bastices.
But the ghost claims he wrote it. It's this funny little meta nod to authorship.
Totally. Then we get his family, Brownie Dad, Fairy Mum, who had a craze for variety.
So his siblings are everything. A pixie, phase, banshee, fetch, kelpie, poltergeist, ghoul, trolls, goblin, double, elf, sprite, leprechaun.
What a family gathering that must be. He wanted to be a specter, but, ghost nobility, hard to break into.
So what was his training like?
Haunting dungeons, castles, howling entitlements, the usual stuff. But he notes how ghost sounds have changed. Groaning is old hat. Squeaking is the new thing.
Tweaking.
Takes a year to master, apparently. And gibbering, like in Shakespeare. Very difficult.
Then he gets into the nitty-gritty of the practical side of haunting. Costs and difficulties.
Oh, yeah. Like dressing up as a double, 10 pounds, and not very effective. Setting up a proper haunted tower scene.
Where?
Skull, chains, blue lights, lenses. It's expensive. Involves hiring people, testing fire.
Sounds like putting on a play.
Pretty much. And then you've got the fastidious haunted house committee nitpicking everything.
What kind of things?
Even your accent. He mentions an Irish brogue being unacceptable. Plus, the pay was awful. £1 a week. You had to provide your own bogeys.
Find your own bogeys, so it's less terrifying haunting, more like a badly paid gig economy job.
Exactly. It drains all the mystique out of it.
Okay, so moving into Canto V. The narrator asks a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Do the victims, the hosts, get any say in which ghost they get?
And the answer is basically no. Especially not children. That'd be chaos.
Mhm.
Adults aren't consulted beforehand. But they can ask for a change if the ghost is rude or just quits. So there's a little bit of recourse, like a complaints department.
Spectral customer service. And what about houses? Can you haunt any house?
Apparently not. New houses are no good because they need trimming.
Trimming, what's that involve?
Loosening doors, drilling holes in the floorboards and skirting boards. Basically making the place drafty and creaky. Needs to be at least 20 years old to be properly hauntable.
Okay. Needs character. Then the conversation shifts again. The ghost mentions getting permission to wait from the nightmare.
Who the narrator has never heard of.
And the ghost is shocked, says he must never go to bed or have amazing digestion.
Because the nightmare's job is to sit on people who eat too much late at night. Pinching, poking, squeezing them. He's described as immensely fat. Used to be called the mayor incorporation.
How did he become a nightmare?
Got knighted by the king, kind of as a joke, for managing to run 2 miles despite being over 20 stone.
Pure Carroll silliness right there. Just delightful nonsense.
It really is. And this absurdity seems to trigger the narrator, who quotes Dr. Johnson about puns.
Right. The man that would make a pun would pick a pocket. A very anti-pun stance.
But the ghost has the perfect comeback. A man is not a king. Implying kings can pun if they want.
I guess so. They argue about it. The ghost calls the narrator's logic regular claptrap. Calls him a ridiculous old chap. Tells a story about a guy whose argument got so heated it scorched his slippers off.
Amazing image. The narrator tries one last time with logic. Union is strength.
And the ghost just shuts it down with that perfect pun.
That's true enough. But onions are a weakness.
Boom. Argument over. You can't beat that.
Absolutely not. Which leads us into Canto 6, Discomfiture. The narrator's feeling defeated, like he climbed a hill with logic only to get pushed back down.
He tried all the logical tricks, therefore, because the syllogistic maze.
Yeah, but the ghost was just immune to it all.
And then the climax, the reason we call this confusion, the ghost casually calls him Tibbs.
And the narrator says, no, my name's Tibbets, not Tibbs.
And the ghost just loses it, bangs the table, breaks glasses.
Calls him the prince of all the asses for not saying so earlier, after he walked 4 miles through rain and mud to the wrong house.
But, I mean, it was totally the ghost's fault for not checking the name right.
Exactly. Which the narrator points out quite angrily.
And the ghost, surprisingly, kind of concedes the point. Says, that isn't badly put. Apologizes for losing his temper.
Admits it was his mistake. They actually shake hands.
And the ghost calls him Old Turnip Top.
Which the narrator isn't thrilled about, but decides maybe it was meant kindly. Such an odd anticlimactic resolution.
It really is. But before he vanishes with the dawn, the ghost gives some parting advice.
Oh yeah, advice on how to handle inferior spites if they cause trouble.
What's the advice? Be firm, ignore them.
No, get a hard, thick stick and wrap them on the knuckles.
Seriously, physical violence against sprites?
Apparently. And then tell them off, call them old coon, warn them to behave or they'll be chuckling to another tune. It's weirdly aggressive.
Very weird. And then poof, he's gone as it gets light.
Leaving the narrator in Canto 7, sad souvenance, completely bewildered. Was he asleep? Drunk?
But then he feels sad. For the ghost, Bones, he calls him.
Yeah, and pity for the real Mr. Tibbs, who presumably got missed out on this whole weird encounter, or maybe is getting it now.
So how does he cope? He mixes another drink.
Naturally. And sings the Coronach, a lament for the ghost.
Saying goodbye to his beloved ghost, best of familiars, lamenting the lost duck, the tea, the cigars.
Calling him Old Brick, and then, my absolute favorite, Old Parallel Pipette.
You just can't top Old Parallel Pipette. It's peak Carroll absurdity.
It really is. He goes to bed, dreams of all the other ghost types from the family tree.
Pixies, fays, banshees.
And the last thought is that nickname. Old Turnip Top, good night.
What a journey. Phantasmagoria really shows Carroll taking the supernatural and just grounding it in the most mundane, bureaucratic, slightly petty details.
It's satire, isn't it? Of rules, of society, maybe even of academic structures, all wrapped in this ghost story frame.
Definitely. But this collection, Phantasmagoria and other poems, has more to offer too. Let's touch on a few others you pulled from the source. Show the range.
Good idea. A sea dirge is fantastic. It's just pure, concentrated dislike of the seaside.
He really hates the sea, doesn't he?
Oh, passionately. He lists things he hates: spiders, ghosts, income tax, gout, sharing an umbrella. But the sea, that's the worst.
His comparisons are hilarious. Pouring salt water on the floor. That's like the sea. Beating a dog. Like the sea.
And the complaints. Sandy coffee, salty tea, fishy eggs, wet feet, slipping in pools. It's like he's cataloging every single minor seaside inconvenience into this poem of utter disgust.
It's so over the top, it's funny, and you get the feeling he genuinely doesn't understand why anyone would like it.
Exactly. Then you have Hiawatha's photographing,
Right.
which is just a brilliant parody.
Parody of Longfellow's Hiawatha, right?
Yeah.
But applied to taking a photo.
Yeah, the very non-epic struggle of getting a family portrait done with early camera tech. The setup description is great, all wood and hinges and angles like geometry.
And the family themselves are impossible subjects.
Totally.
Yeah.
Dad tries to pose like Napoleon, but fidgets. Mom won't stop talking. The son tries these arty curves of beauty poses from Ruskin.
Ruskin again.
Yep. And the daughter tries for passive beauty, but just ends up squinting. They just can't get it right.
But then the group photo works.
Perfectly. Everyone looks exactly like themselves, and they hate it.
Of course they do. Unpleasant people, they call themselves.
It's such a sharp little commentary on vanity, on the gap between how we see ourselves in reality, and maybe the frustrations of new technology. The photographer eventually just snaps and leaves.
Can't blame him. What about poetic fit, non-nascitur? Poet is made, not born.
Right. It's satirical rules for how to become a poet given by an old man. Carroll's basically mocking formulaic, pretentious poetry writing.
What are the rules? Like,
Chop your sentences up small. Mix them up. Doesn't matter the order. Be spasmodic.
Okay.
Capitalize abstract nouns like truth and goodness and beauty, because those are the things that pay. Very. Rule 3. Hint, don't state clearly. Use a mental squint. So don't say mutton pie. Say dreams of fleecy flocks pent in a wheaten cell.
Oh dear. Very flowery.
Use generic adjectives. Wild, lonely, weary, strange. Be obscure generally. Fill space with padding. Yeah, just filler. And save your big sensation stanza for the end. Make life a spasm and history a whiz.
It's a perfect takedown of bad, overly dramatic poetry.
It really is. And then there's Fame's penny trumpet, which feels quite pointed.
What's that one targeting?
Seems to be aimed at contemporary researchers or academics, who he saw as chasing money and fame endowment instead of knowledge for its own sake.
He contrasts them with
Figures like Plato and Newton, and his language is harsh, calls the modern types gold-sucking leeches, talks about their swinish appetite, hoofs unclean, the babble clamor of the sty.
wow, really doesn't hold back.
Not at all. Accuses them of hypocrisy. Says their fame is just a little flickering candle, a taper, compared to the sun of real thinkers. The penny trumpet title says it all: noisy, cheap, it's insignificant.
That's quite a fierce critique. Are there other quick highlights?
Yeah, the collection's full of gems. A Game of Fives tracks 5 girls getting older, how their attitudes towards boys change, suddenly being nice to ones they ignored before. It's quite funny. Sighs and Tears is literally a poem by a larger gentleman complaining about a thin rival stealing the girls by pointing out his weight.
Turning personal grievance into verse.
Exactly. Atalanta in Camden Town puts a classical myth into awkward London courtship proposals interrupted by buses arguing about wedding costs.
That sounds very Carroll.
The Lang Courtin is this long ballad in Scots of a ridiculously slow courtship with bizarre gifts and communication breakdowns like letters arriving postage due.
Frustrating.
And the 3 voices is very strange, abstract. A man by the sea trying and painfully failing to understand a woman's philosophical talk. He feels actual pain from her words, decides it's absurd, but feels haunted by it. Maybe about the sheer difficulty of understanding each other.
Interesting. So looking at this whole collection, stepping away from Wonderland, you really see a different side of Carroll.
You really do. He's not just about fantasy and logic puzzles. He's a sharp social observer, a satirist, using that unique wit on everything from ghosts to poetry to science funding.
Applying that same eye for absurd detail to, well, everything.
Yeah. Diving into a source like this, one that's maybe less famous,
Yeah.
it just enriches your understanding of him so much. You see the recurring themes, the targets of his humor, the way his mind worked.
It really shows him playing constantly with language, rules, social norms, finding the ridiculous everywhere.
Absolutely. The detailed ghost rules, the scathing critiques, the poetic parodies, it's all filtered through that unique Carrollian view.
So, as you, the listener, think about all this, maybe ponder that ghost society. Which of those maxims of behavior strikes you as the most bizarre or maybe the most strangely logical in its own way?
Or think about those other poems. Do any of Carroll's critiques about shallow fame or the awkwardness of technology or just the difficulty of talking to each other, do they still feel relevant today?
It's definitely worth exploring more. Remember, the whole collection is out there on Project Gutenberg, free to read if you want to dive deeper into this weird and wonderful world yourself.